Midnight hit, and she still wasn't there. Min Jun Kang had ruled Seoul's underworld for a decade without hesitation. But the night his Moroccan maid arrived late, the most feared man in the city lost control. 3 months ago, she walked into his penthouse humming, and now her absence felt like a threat he couldn't kill. As we dive into this gripping emotional rollercoaster, kindly take a minute to like this video, share and subscribe for more romance tales. Min Jun had hired her 3 months ago. A maid, that's all she was supposed to be. Yasmin El Amin walked into his life on a Tuesday morning with olive skin glowing against her modest uniform, dark curls escaping her ponytail, and eyes that held galaxies he wanted to explore. She was 23, Moroccan, curvy in ways that made his carefully controlled world tilt sideways. He was 30, untouchable, the silent king of Seoul's underground empire. Men feared him, women wanted him, but none of them made him feel like this, unraveled, desperate, utterly ruined. She'd been cleaning his study when he first truly saw her. Dust motes danced in afternoon sunlight while she hummed something soft and unfamiliar. He'd watched from the doorway, frozen as she reached for a high shelf, her uniform riding up slightly, the curve of her waist, the unconscious grace in her movements. Something cracked open inside him, violent and irreversible. "You missed a spot," he'd said, voice rougher than intended. She'd spun around, hand flying to her chest. "Mr. Kang, I'm so sorry, I didn't—" The corner, behind the lamp. Yasmin had blinked those impossibly long lashes, then smiled, actually smiled at him. "Thank you for telling me." No one thanked him for corrections. No one smiled when he pointed out their failures, but she did, genuine and warm, and Min Jun felt the ground shift beneath his expensive shoes. "Is there anything else?" she'd asked, already moving to fix the oversight. "No, continue." He'd left before he could say something foolish, but the image of her smile had branded itself into his memory. That night, lying in bed, he'd replayed the moment obsessively. The musical lilt of her accent, the way her eyes had sparkled with genuine appreciation rather than fear or calculation. She was different, dangerously different. Later that evening, he'd increased her salary without explanation, assigned her exclusively to his private floors, told himself it was because she was thorough, professional, efficient, not because he needed her near, not because her absence made rooms feel empty. The next morning, she'd brought him tea unasked, perfectly steeped, exactly how he preferred it, though he'd never told her. "My mother always said you can tell a lot about a person by how they take their tea," Yasmin had murmured, setting the cup on his desk. She was usually right. "Your mother sounds wise." She was. Past tense. Sadness flickered across her features before she smoothed it away. "Will there be anything else, Mr. Kang?" "Min Jun," he'd corrected. "Just Min Jun." Her eyes had widened. "That wouldn't be appropriate, sir." "I'm making it appropriate." "Then, no, Min Jun. Nothing else." The way his name sounded in her accent, soft, careful, like prayer, had haunted him for days. Over the following week, Min Jun had found himself restructuring his entire schedule around her presence. Morning meetings pushed later so he could watch her arrive. Afternoon calls taken from home instead of the office. Evening work stretched into night so she wouldn't leave before he could see her one last time. It was madness. He recognized it. But recognition didn't cure him. He'd learned her patterns. She always arrived 15 minutes early, used those minutes to organize her supplies with meticulous care. She hummed when she thought she was alone, Moroccan songs he didn't recognize but found himself straining to hear. She took her lunch break at exactly 1 o'clock, sitting in the small staff room with a book she never seemed to finish because she was too busy staring out the window, lost in thoughts he desperately wanted to know. A few days later, he'd found her in the library dusting shelves with meticulous attention. Rain drummed against floor-to-ceiling windows. She'd paused at a collection of Arabic poetry, fingers hovering over the spines. "You read Arabic?" Minjun had asked from behind her. Yasmin had jumped, hand flying to her throat. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Do you read it?" "My father taught me." Her voice went soft. "Before he passed." Minjun had pulled the book from the shelf, handed it to her. "Borrow it." "Sir, I couldn't." "You can. You will." She'd taken it, cradling the volume like something precious. Her fingers had traced the embossed title with reverence. "Thank you. Tell me your favorite line. Tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" "When you return it." Yasmin had studied him, confusion and curiosity warring in her expression. "You want me to return it tomorrow? But it's quite long." "Then you'll have to start reading tonight." The smallest smile had tugged at her lips. "Is this how you treat all your staff, Mr. Kang?" "No," he'd answered, honest and raw. "Just you." Her breath had caught. For a moment, something electric had passed between them, acknowledgement of the impossible thing growing in the space they shared. Then she ducked her head, clutching the book. "I should get back to work." "Yasmin." She'd paused at the door. "Take your time with it. I'm not going anywhere." By the end of the week, she'd returned the book with a passage marked. Minjun had read it alone in his office. The heart has its reasons, which reason knows nothing of. He'd traced the words she'd touched, feeling insane, feeling alive. He'd started leaving books for her after that. Poetry. Philosophy. Romance novels he'd never admit to purchasing. She'd leave notes in return, thoughtful, funny, revealing pieces of herself he hoarded like treasure. Their conversation stretched longer. His excuses to summon her grew thinner. His staff noticed. His second-in-command, Tae Yang, had the audacity to smirk. "You're playing a dangerous game, boss." "I don't play games." "Then what do you call this? She's your employee. You have enemies everywhere. Getting attached." "I'm not attached." Tae Yang's laugh had been knowing, infuriating. "Whatever helps you sleep at night." But Minjun didn't sleep. He watched security footage of Yasmin moving through his home, memorized her routines, noticed when she seemed tired or sad. He increased her breaks, had meals prepared for her, made sure she never worked late alone, protected her from shadows she didn't know existed. One afternoon, he'd overheard her on the phone in the hallway. Her voice had been strained, worried. "I understand, but I need more time. No, I'm sending what I can. Please, just another month." When she'd ended the call, her hands had been shaking. Minjun had emerged from his office. "Is everything all right?" Yasmin had startled, wiping quickly at her eyes. "Yes, of course, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take personal calls during work." "I don't care about that. You're upset." "It's nothing. Family matters." "Family in Morocco?" She'd nodded, surprised he'd remembered. "My aunt. She's been taking care of my younger cousins since their parents died. Money is tight." Minjun had pulled out his phone, typed rapidly. "What's the amount?" "I'm sorry." "How much does she need?" "I couldn't possibly—" "You can. Consider it a bonus for exceptional work." "Mr. Kang, that's too generous." "Minjun. And it's not generous. It's fair." He'd looked up from his phone. "I'm transferring funds to your account. Use it however you need." Tears had spilled over. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you matter to me." The confession had hung between them, raw and undeniable. Yasmin had stared at him, lips parted, breath quick. "I don't understand you. I don't understand myself anymore. Not since you." She'd left quickly after that, but Minjun had seen the way her hands trembled as she gathered her things. He'd affected her. The knowledge had been intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. The following day, she'd sought him out in his office. "I wanted to thank you properly for yesterday." "No need. There's every need." She'd stepped closer, and Minjun had forced himself to remain seated, to maintain some semblance of control. That money will change their lives. My aunt was crying when I called her. She kept saying prayers of gratitude. I'm glad I could help. Why did you really do it, Min-jun? He'd looked at her then, this woman who'd somehow become the center of his universe, and decided on honesty. Because seeing you hurt made me want to destroy whatever caused it. Because your happiness has become more important than my own. Because I'm falling for you and I don't know how to stop. Yasmin had gripped the edge of his desk. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because I'm your employee. Because there's a power imbalance. Because this is inevitable? He'd stood slowly. Because that's what it feels like to me. Like we were always going to end up here, in this moment, pretending we don't feel what we feel. I don't know what I feel. Liar. She'd flinched. Even if I did feel something, it wouldn't matter. You're Min-jun Kang. I'm a maid from a refugee background who cleans your floors. This isn't a fairy tale. No, he'd agreed, moving around the desk. It's better. It's real. Real doesn't mean possible. Let me prove you wrong. How? Have dinner with me. Tonight. Not as employer and employee, as two people trying to figure out what this is. Yasmin had backed toward the door. I can't. Can't or won't? Does it matter? Yes. She'd paused, hand on the doorknob. I'm scared, Min-jun, of what you make me feel, of what could happen if I let myself want this. I've lost everyone I've ever loved. I can't, I won't, survive losing you too. Then don't lose me, choose me. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. But she'd left, and Min-jun had stood in his office, fists clenched, knowing he'd pushed too hard and not hard enough. That evening, he'd found a note on his desk in her handwriting. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. He'd held that note for hours, understanding the message. She was wounded, scared, but considering the light, considering him. The previous evening, he'd returned from a meeting bloodied and furious. A deal gone wrong, a rival family making moves. Violence had been necessary, swift, brutal. He'd entered through the private entrance, hoping to clean up before anyone saw. But Yasmin had been there, organizing his closet as requested. She'd gasped at the blood on his shirt, his split knuckles. What happened? Are you hurt? It's not mine. You're bleeding. Yasmin. But she'd already rushed to his bathroom, returned with first aid supplies. Sit. I don't take orders in my own home. Tonight you do. Her hands had been gentle, cleaning his wounds with practiced efficiency. My brother used to get in fights. I learned young. Where is he now? Your brother. Her hands had stilled. Gone, like everyone else. Min-jun had caught her wrist, forcing her eyes to his. Not everyone leaves. Everyone leaves, Min-jun. Eventually. I won't. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar. I know you hum when you're nervous. I know you rearrange my books by color when you think I'm not watching. I know you cry in the bathroom sometimes and pretend everything's fine. I know... Stop. Her voice had cracked. Please stop. Why? Because I'm nothing. I clean. Your floors. We're not... You're everything. The words had torn out of him, savage and true. And I'm losing my mind trying to pretend otherwise. Yasmin had pulled away, gathering supplies with shaking hands. I should go. Stay. I can't. Why not? Because you scare me. She'd looked at him then, eyes bright with unshed tears. Not because of what you do, because of how you make me feel. She'd left before he could respond, and Min-jun had sat in the silence, fists clenched, knowing he'd revealed too much and not enough. Now she was late, 30 minutes late. His calls went to voicemail. His messages remained unread. Possibilities cycled through his mind, each worse than the last. Accident. Danger. Enemies who'd discovered his weakness. He'd built an empire on control, but control meant nothing when she disappeared. The elevator chimed. Min-jun spun around, heart hammering. Yasmin stumbled into the penthouse, hair wild, uniform disheveled, phone clutched in her hand. She saw him and froze. "I'm so sorry," she breathed. "The subway broke down and my phone died and I couldn't—" He crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, hands framing her face, searching for injuries, threats, any sign of harm. "You're all right?" "I'm fine, I just don't do that again. I didn't mean to worry you." "Worry?" His laugh was harsh. "Yasmin, I was 2 seconds from burning this city down looking for you." She stared at him, lips parted, breath coming quick. "Why?" "You know why." "Say it." "Because I'm obsessed with you." His forehead dropped to hers, control shattering. "Because I think about you every moment you're gone. Because I bought that poetry book in 12 different translations, hoping one would make you stay longer. Because I haven't felt human in years, and you walked in humming, and I remembered what it's like to want something more than power." "Min-jun, tell me to stop and I will. Tell me this is madness and I'll let you go, but—" "Don't ask me why, because you already know." Yasmin's hands came up to grip his wrists, anchoring them together. "I can't tell you to stop." "Why not?" "Because I'm just as mad." The confession hung between them like lightning before thunder. Min-jun's thumbs traced her cheekbones, memorizing the way she trembled beneath his touch. He'd commanded armies, orchestrated empires, destroyed men without hesitation. But this woman, this impossibly brave woman with eyes like midnight, undid him completely. "You should run," he whispered against her skin, "while you still can." "Maybe I don't want to run anymore." He pulled back enough to study her face, searching for doubt, fear, any reason to release her, found none. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying. I'm not a good man, Yasmin. The things I've done—" "I never asked for good." Her fingers curled into his shirt. "I asked for real." Something broke in him then, some final wall he'd maintained for both, their sakes. He kissed her forehead, soft and reverent, a promise and a prayer. "Go home. Rest. We'll talk tomorrow when you're not exhausted." "I don't want to leave." "I know, but if you stay, I won't be able to pretend anymore, and you deserve better than my desperation." Yasmin had searched his face, reading truths he couldn't hide. Finally, she'd nodded, stepping back. "Tomorrow, then." "Tomorrow?" He'd watched her leave, then immediately contacted Tae Yang. Put a detail on her. Rotating shifts. Best men. If anyone even looks at her wrong. Already done, boss. Had them in place for weeks. "Weeks? You think I didn't notice? You're not exactly subtle." Min-jun had ended the call, poured himself a drink he didn't want, and stood at the window watching the city until dawn. Sleep was impossible. His mind replayed every moment. Her trembling hands, her whispered confession, the way she'd gripped his wrists like he was her anchor. She felt it too, this impossible, dangerous thing growing between them. Later that evening, Min-jun had sat in his study, replaying her words. "I'm just as mad." She felt it too, this impossible, dangerous thing growing between them. He should end it, should transfer her to another property, another country, anywhere safe from the darkness that cloaked his life. But selfishness won. It always did when it came to her. He'd pulled up the security footage from earlier, watched her stumble into his penthouse disheveled and panicked, the fear on her face when she'd seen him. Not fear of him, fear for disappointing him. The distinction mattered. It mattered so much that his chest ached with it. His phone had buzzed. Tae Yang. "She's home safe. Building secure. Men in position." Min-jun had typed back, "Good. Report anything unusual. Boss, you need to sleep. I'll sleep when she's here. That's not healthy. I don't care." He'd set the phone down and returned to work, drowning himself in numbers and strategies, because thinking about tomorrow, about what her confession meant, about what he wanted to do about it, was too overwhelming. The next morning, Yasmin had arrived precisely on time, wearing a dress instead of her uniform, pale blue cotton that brought out the warmth in her skin. She'd stood in his kitchen doorway, nervous and determined. "I'm not working today," she'd announced. Minjun had looked up from his coffee, heart stuttering. "Oh?" I called in. Told them I needed a personal day. "Why?" "Because you said we'd talk, and I don't want to talk to my boss. I want to talk to the man who memorized how I take my coffee." He'd set down his cup slowly, hands unsteady. "That man is dangerous, Yasmin." "I know. He wants things he shouldn't want." "I know that too." "He won't be able to stay away if you give him permission." "Good." She'd moved closer, and Minjun had forced himself to remain still. "Because I'm tired of pretending I don't see how you look at me, how you find reasons to walk past wherever. I'm working. How you stay awake until I leave each night. I'm tired of lying to myself about what this is." "And what is this?" "I don't know." Her voice had softened. "But I want to find out." Minjun had stood, maintaining distance through sheer will. "I can't offer you normal. I can't give you safe. My world... I grew up in refugee camps, Minjun. I've buried everyone I loved. I cleaned houses to survive, sent money home to cousins I'll never see again. Safe is an illusion. Normal is a privilege I stopped believing in at 14. She'd stepped closer. "So don't protect me from danger I've already survived. Protect me by being honest." "You want honesty?" He'd closed the distance between them, watching her pupils dilate. "I want you in ways that should terrify you. I want to keep you close and never let go. I want to know every thought in your head, every dream you've abandoned, every fear you hide. I want to worship you and ruin you and build you a kingdom, if that's what it takes to make you stay." Yasmin had swallowed hard. "That doesn't terrify me." "It should. You know what terrifies me? Going back to empty, back to alone, back to existing instead of living." Her hand had risen to his chest, right over his heart. "I'm terrified you'll wake up and realize I'm not worth this intensity, that I'm just a girl who cleans floors and dreams too big." "You're not just anything." He'd covered her hand with his, pressing it firm against his heartbeat. "And if I wake up, it'll be next to you." The words had landed between them, heavy with implication. Yasmin's eyes had widened. "Minjun, I'm not saying this to pressure you. I'm saying it because you asked for honesty. And honestly, I've already decided. You're mine. I'm yours. However long it takes you to believe it." "That's a big claim. It's a true one." They'd stared at each other, the air thick with possibility. Finally, Yasmin had smiled, small and uncertain, but genuine. "So what happens now? Now we spend the day together, no uniforms, no titles, just us." "Just us," she'd echoed, like the words were a revelation. They'd spent the day together. Minjun had canceled meetings, ignored urgent calls, dedicated hours to learning her. They'd talked about everything. Her childhood in Morocco before war scattered her family, her journey through refugee camps in Algeria and Tunisia, the way she'd learned to exist on hope and stubbornness. She'd told him about her mother's laugh, her father's stories, her brother's terrible singing voice. Grief had colored every memory, but so had love. She'd lost everything but refused to lose herself. Minjun had shared his own history in turn, the father who'd forced him into this life, the empire built on blood and necessity, the way power had consumed everything soft until Yasmin had appeared, humming in his study, making him remember what it felt like to want something pure. "Do you regret it?" she'd asked. "The life you've lived?" "I regret the things I've done. I don't regret surviving." "That's honest." "You asked for honest." "I did." She'd studied him. "Can I ask something else?" "Anything. If you could walk away tomorrow, leave all of this behind, would you?" Minjun had considered the question seriously. A month ago, I would have said no. This empire is all I know. But now? He'd reached for her hand, threaded their fingers together. Now I'd burn it all for one more day with you. You can't mean that. Ask me to prove it. I won't. Her grip had tightened. Because I don't want you to resent me for what you gave up. Impossible. You say that now. I'll say it forever. By evening, they'd migrated to his living room. Yasmin curled on the couch with her feet tucked beneath her, Min Jun in the chair across because he didn't trust himself closer. Rain painted patterns on the windows. The city glittered beyond the glass, but Min Jun only saw her. "Can I ask you something?" Yasmin had said suddenly. "Anything. The blood on your shirt yesterday, was it necessary?" Min Jun had considered lying, decided she deserved truth. "Yes. Would you do it again?" Without hesitation. She'd nodded slowly, absorbing this. "And if I asked you to stop? To walk away from all of it?" "I can't walk away, Yasmin. Too many people depend on me. Too many families need protection I provide. This empire isn't just crime. It's survival for hundreds who have nowhere else to turn." "I'm not asking you to." Her eyes had held his. "I'm asking if you'd resent me for wishing you could." "Never. Your softness is what keeps me human." "I'm not soft." "You are, and it's beautiful. Don't let my darkness convince you otherwise." Yasmin had looked away, blinking rapidly. "You keep saying these things, these impossible things." "They're not impossible if they're true." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've never felt this before. And I'm 30 years old, Yasmin. I know the difference between want and need. I want power. I need you." She'd stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "You're moving too fast." "I'm being honest. It's the same thing." "No, it's not." He'd risen, crossed to her slowly. "Moving too fast would be making demands, expecting things. But I'm not expecting anything. I'm just telling you where I stand so you can decide where you want to be." "And if I can't decide?" "Then I'll wait." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." Yasmin had turned to face him, eyes bright. "What if I never decide? What if I stay stuck forever?" "Then I'll be stuck with you. That's not fair to you. Let me worry about what's fair to me." They'd stood there in the gathering darkness, city lights beginning to glow, and something had shifted. Yasmin had reached up, touched his face gently. "You're a strange man, Min Jun Kang." "Is that a compliment?" "I haven't decided yet." He'd smiled despite himself. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." A few days later, everything had shifted again. Min Jun had insisted on driving Yasmin home himself, wanting to see where she lived, needing to ensure her building was safe. They'd pulled up to a modest apartment complex in a rougher neighborhood, and his jaw had tightened. "You live here?" "It's what I can afford. Not anymore." "Min Jun." "I'm moving you. Tomorrow. There's a building I own in Gangnam. Security, doorman, safe." "No." Her voice had been firm. "This neighborhood isn't safe. It's mine. My space. I need that." "Need what?" "Independence. Proof that I'm with you because I want to be, not because I need to be." Min Jun had gripped the steering wheel, understanding and hating it. "Then I'm upgrading your locks, installing cameras, having my men patrol." "That's excessive." "That's non-negotiable." They'd stared at each other until Yasmin had sighed. "Fine, but nothing visible. I don't want my neighbors thinking I'm involved with criminals." "You are involved with criminals." "Then I don't want them knowing it." He'd laughed despite himself, surprised by her constantly. "Deal." She'd moved to leave, but Min Jun had caught her hand. "Yasmin." "Yes?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For not running. For giving this a chance. For being braver than I deserve." She'd leaned across the console, kissed his cheek softly. "Good night, Min Jun." "Good night." He'd watched her enter her building, waited until he saw lights in her apartment, then called Taeyang. I want full security on her building. Cameras, patrols, monitoring. By tomorrow. Already coordinating it, boss. And Taeyang? Yeah? Thank you for not questioning this. You're my friend before you're my boss. I want you happy. She makes you happy. Min-jun had sat in his car for another hour, watching her window, feeling something dangerous and wonderful taking root in his chest. Hope. After years of existing in shadows, he was beginning to hope. By the end of the week, they'd fallen into a rhythm. Min-jun would find excuses to be home during her shifts, though she'd officially requested reduced hours since he'd increased her pay substantially. Yasmin would linger after work, talking until night fell. They existed in this strange space between employer and employee, between friends and something more dangerous. He didn't push. She didn't flee. The tension built like gathering storms. They'd establish small rituals, morning coffee together when she arrived, lunch shared in his kitchen, her perched on the counter while he cooked, because she'd discovered he was surprisingly skilled. Evening conversations that stretched into night, topics ranging from philosophy to terrible reality television she'd gotten him watching. He'd learned she loved historical dramas and awful romantic comedies. She'd learned he had an extensive vinyl collection and knew surprisingly much about classical music. "You're full of surprises," she'd said one evening, watching him select a record. "So are you." "Like what?" "Like the fact that you're terrified of spiders, but not of me." "Spiders are irrational. You're just intense. That's one word for it." "What word would you use?" "Obsessed, consumed, completely gone for you." She'd thrown a pillow at him, laughing. "You can't keep saying things like that." "Why not?" "Because it makes me believe you." "Good. That's the goal." Then Daniel had appeared. Min-jun had been in his office when he'd heard unfamiliar laughter from the kitchen. Male laughter. He'd emerged to find a Western man leaning against his counter, grinning at Yasmin while she prepared lunch. Tall, handsome, comfortable in a way that made Min-jun's vision narrow. Oh, Min-jun! Yasmin had smiled, oblivious to the murder unfolding behind his eyes. "This is Daniel. He's working on the building renovations downstairs. Daniel, this is Min-jun Kang, the owner." Daniel had extended a hand. "Pleasure to meet you, sir. Beautiful building. And Yasmin's been kind enough to share some coffee while I'm on break." Min-jun had looked at the hand like it was diseased. How generous of her. Yasmin's smile had faltered slightly. "Daniel was just telling me about his travels through Morocco. He spent time in Marrakesh. Fascinating." Min-jun's voice could have frozen fire. "I'm sure he has work to return to." "Right, of course." Daniel had straightened, glancing between them with dawning awareness. "Thanks for the coffee, Yasmin. Maybe we could grab lunch sometime. I'd love to hear more about your hometown." "Oh, I don't think—" Yasmin had started. "She's busy," Min-jun had interrupted, moving to stand between them, indefinitely. Daniel had raised his hands, backing toward the door. "No problem, man. Didn't mean to overstep. Yasmin, good seeing you." The moment he'd left, silence had crashed down. Yasmin had turned to Min-jun, eyes blazing. "What was that?" "What was what?" "Don't play stupid. You were incredibly rude." "Was I?" He'd crowded closer, something possessive and ugly unfurling in his chest. "Should I have encouraged him? Helped him plan your date?" "It wasn't like that." "He wanted you. I saw it. Everyone will see it because you're beautiful and kind and exceptional. And I'm supposed to smile while men line up hoping you'll notice them. You don't own me, Min-jun." "I know." His hands had clenched. "That's the problem." Yasmin had stared at him, breath coming fast, anger and something else warring in her expression. "You're jealous." Furiously. "That's not fair. Since when is any of this fair?" Min-jun had braced his hands on the counter behind her, caging her in without touching. "You think I want to feel like this?" You think I enjoy losing my mind every time someone looks at you? Then maybe we shouldn't. Don't. The word came out harsh. Don't finish that sentence. We're not together, Minjun. We're in this weird space where I don't know what we are, and you react like I've betrayed you when someone asks about Morocco because I want to be the one asking about Morocco. His control had cracked. I want to be the one making you smile, learning your stories, hearing about your past. I want every version of you, the one who hums while working, who argues with me about poetry, who looks at me like maybe I'm not completely damned. But I'm trying to be patient, trying to let you come to this in your own time. And then some renovation worker thinks he can what? Be friendly? Have a conversation? Want you? Yasmin had searched his face and something in her expression had softened. And if he does want me, if other men do, what then? Then they learn very quickly why crossing me is a terminal mistake. You can't threaten everyone who finds me attractive. Watch me. She'd laughed then, short and sharp. This is insane. Yes. He'd leaned closer, drawn by gravity he couldn't fight. But you knew that already. I'm going home. Yasmin, no, I need space to think. We need boundaries before this gets more complicated. It's already complicated. Then we need to uncomplicate it. She ducked under his arm, grabbed her bag. I'll see you Monday. Don't run. I'm not running. I'm breathing. She'd left, and Minjun had stood in his kitchen, furious and terrified, and utterly lost. The apartment had felt cavernous without her. He'd poured himself a drink he didn't want, stood at the window, watching the city, and wondered when exactly she'd become the only thing that mattered. Tae Yang had appeared minutes later, letting himself in with the key Min Jun had given him years ago. Want to talk about it? No. Want to destroy something? Tempting. She's good for you, you know, keeps you human. She's leaving. She walked out angry. That's not leaving. That's caring enough to be hurt. Tae Yang had moved to stand beside him, both of them looking out at Seoul. Give her space. Let her see you'll respect her boundaries. What if space means losing her? Then she was never yours to lose. But I don't think that's what this is. What is it then? Fear. She's terrified of how much she feels, and you're terrified she'll realize you're not worth it. You're both running scared, just in different directions. Min Jun had looked at his oldest friend. When did you become wise? Someone has to be. You're too busy being dramatic. Despite everything, Min Jun had smiled. I hate you. No, you don't. Now stop moping and figure out how to prove you're serious without being suffocating. But space felt impossible when Yasmin consumed every thought. Min Jun had thrown himself into work, dismantling a rival operation with surgical precision. Blood and business, the language he understood. Yet even in the violence, he'd thought of her. Soft hands, fierce eyes, the way she'd said his name like it meant something. He'd wanted to call, text, show up at her door. Instead, he'd channeled his energy into action. Her building's security was upgraded overnight, new locks installed, cameras positioned with military precision. His men briefed on patrol routes and threat assessment. If he couldn't be with her, he'd at least ensure she was protected. The next morning, flowers had appeared at Yasmin's apartment. Not roses, too obvious. Orange blossoms and jasmine, fragrant and delicate, Moroccan in origin. The card had read simply, "Patience is easier when I know you're safe." She hadn't responded, but she hadn't sent them back either. Min Jun had taken it as a small victory. 2 days later, he'd learned from his security detail that a package had been delivered to her apartment. Books, 3 of them. All Moroccan authors she'd mentioned loving but couldn't afford. The delivery slip had been blank, but Yasmin would know. That evening, his phone had buzzed. Yasmin, you're impossible. Relief had flooded him. Min Jun, is that a complaint? I haven't decided yet. Take your time. I'm patient. Since when? Since you. A long pause. Then, thank you. For the flowers. For the books. For respecting my space even though I know it's killing you. Minjun had stared at that message for 10 minutes before responding, "How do you know it's killing me?" "Because I know you, even when I wish I didn't." "Do you wish you didn't?" Another long pause. "No, that's the problem." "Yasmin." "Yes? Can I see you?" "I'm not ready yet." "Okay, tell me when you are." "You'll really wait, however long it takes." A few days later, Minjun had learned from security that Yasmin had attended a cultural festival. He'd reviewed footage obsessively, watching her dance, laugh, exist in spaces he couldn't enter. She'd worn traditional clothing, looked radiant, moved with a grace that made his chest ache. A Moroccan man had asked her to dance. She'd agreed. Minjun had watched them move together, her body fluid and graceful, and wanted to burn the world. But he'd done nothing, sent no threats, made no moves. Because she'd asked for space, and he was trying to be better than his worst instincts. It had been the hardest thing he'd ever done. On the 6th day, Minjun had been in a meeting when Tai Yang had interrupted. "Boss, you need to see this." "I'm busy. It's about Yasmin." Minjun had been out of his chair in seconds. "What happened? Is she hurt?" "She's fine. But she's here, in the lobby, asking to see you." The world had tilted. "Send her up." "She said she'll wait until you're finished." "Send her up now." 3 minutes later, the elevator had chimed. Yasmin had stepped into his penthouse wearing jeans and a simple sweater, hair pulled back, face uncertain. She'd looked beautiful and nervous and real. "Hi," she'd said softly. "Hi? Can we talk?" "Always." They'd moved to the living room, sat on opposite ends of the couch, close but not touching. Yasmin had twisted her hands in her lap. "I've been thinking," she'd started. "About?" "Everything. You, me, this thing between us that I keep trying to rationalize. And I can't rationalize it. It doesn't make sense. The age difference, the power imbalance, your world, my fears, none of it makes sense." Minjun's heart had sunk. "I understand." "I'm not finished." She'd turned to face him. "It doesn't make sense, but it's real. You're real. The way you look at me, the way you've respected my space even though I know it's been torture, the way you protect me without smothering me, it's real and I'm tired of fighting it." Hope had flared, dangerous and bright. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to try. Really try. Not this halfway thing where we pretend we're not falling for each other. I want all of it. Your intensity, your obsession, your impossible promises. I want to see if we can make this work." "Yasmin, but I need you to be patient with me. I need you to understand that I'm going to be scared sometimes, that I'm going to pull back when it gets too intense, that I'm going to need reassurance even when it seems obvious." Minjun had closed the distance between them, taken her hands in his. "I can do that." "Can you really? Because I know you're used to controlling everything. And I can't be controlled, Minjun. I need to be chosen." "Then I choose you, every day, every moment, in every way that matters." Tears had spilled over. "Promise me something. Anything. Promise me that if this doesn't work, if I'm too broken or you realize I'm not enough, promise me you'll tell me. Don't just disappear. Don't make me wonder. You're not broken, and you're more than enough." He'd cupped her face, wiped her tears with his thumbs. "But yes, I promise. Complete honesty even when it's hard." "Okay." She'd taken a shaky breath. "Okay. Can I kiss you now?" A watery laugh. "You're asking permission?" "Always." "Then yes, please." He'd kissed her soft and slow, pouring months of longing into it. Yasmin had melted against him, hands fisting in his shirt, and Minjun had felt everything click into place. This was what he'd been missing his entire life. Not power or fear or respect. Just her. Just this. When they'd finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Yasmin had smiled. "So what now? Now we figure it out together. I'd like that." They'd spent the rest of the day talking, planning, negotiating the terms of their relationship. She'd keep working, not for him, but she'd find employment elsewhere to maintain independence. He'd be honest about his business, but would shield her from direct violence. She'd move to the safer apartment building he owned, but it would be hers, rent-free, but hers. They'd take things slow physically, let the emotional foundation solidify first. "This is very mature of us," Yasmin had said that evening, curled against him on the couch. "Surprisingly mature. Think we can actually stick to it? The going slow part? Yeah." Minjun had pressed a kiss to her hair. "Probably not, but we can try." She'd laughed, and the sound had filled spaces in him he hadn't known were empty. By the end of the week, they'd shifted into something new, still careful, still learning, but undeniably together. Minjun had helped her move into the new apartment, a beautiful space in a secure building, close enough to visit easily but far enough to maintain boundaries. He'd purchased furniture with her, learned her style, watched her face light up at creating a home. "You don't have to do all this," she'd said, watching movers carry in a new couch. "I want to. It's too much. It's not enough." Yasmin had turned to him, serious. "Minjun, I need you to understand something. I'm grateful for everything you've done, but I can't let you buy my affection. That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" "It's me trying to give you the stability you've never had. It's me wanting you to feel safe and cared for. It's selfish, actually, because seeing you happy makes me happy." She'd studied him, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but I'm paying for groceries." "Deal." "And utilities." "Yasmin. Non-negotiable. I need to contribute." He'd wanted to argue, but the set of her jaw had told him this mattered. "Fine. Groceries and utilities. Everything else is mine." "That's not exactly balanced." "Life isn't balanced. Get used to it." She'd kissed him to shut him up, and Minjun had decided letting her win was worth it. The following week, Yasmin had started a new job at a boutique hotel. Better hours, better pay, work she enjoyed. Minjun had wanted to buy her the hotel just so she'd never have to work again, but he'd restrained himself. She needed purpose beyond him. He understood that, even if he didn't like it. One evening, she'd come home exhausted but smiling. Minjun had been waiting in her apartment. She'd given him a key, called it a big step, kissed him until he'd forgotten why keys mattered. "Rough day?" he'd asked, pulling her into his arms. "Long day, good day." She'd buried her face in his chest. "This smells like you." "I've been here a lot." "I noticed. I like it." "Yeah?" "Yeah. Feels like home." Something had seized in his chest. Home. She'd called him home. Minjun had tilted her face up, kissed her slowly. "Move in with me." Yasmin had pulled back. "What?" "Move in with me. I know it's fast, but you're always at my place or I'm here, and I want to wake up with you every morning. I want you in my space permanently. I want—" "Minjun, we've been together officially for 2 weeks. I've wanted you for months. That's not the same thing." "Isn't it?" She'd step back, creating distance. "I need more time." "How much time?" "I don't know, but this is too fast." Frustration had risen. "Why?" "We already know how we feel. We already spend every free moment together. What difference does living space make?" "Because once I move in, there's no going back. Because I need to be sure this is forever, not just intense." "It is forever." "You can't know that." "Yes, I can." He'd caught her hands. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." "That's because you're used to deciding things and making them happen. But relationships aren't business deals, Minjun. They take time." He'd wanted to argue, to push, to make her see reason. But Taeyong's words had echoed, "Respect her boundaries." So he'd nodded instead. "Okay, we'll wait. but I'm going to keep asking. I know. She'd smiled despite herself. And eventually I'll say yes. When? When I'm ready. Can I get that in writing? She'd laughed, and the tension had broken. They'd ordered food, watched terrible television, existed in the space they'd carved out together. And if Min-jun had held her a little tighter that night, neither of them mentioned it. But the peace hadn't lasted. The call had come 3 days later. Min-jun had been in a meeting when Tai-yang had burst in, face grim. "We have a situation." "What kind?" "Yasmin kind." The room had tilted. What happened? "Someone leaked photos. You and her together, at her apartment, at restaurants, everywhere. They're threatening to go public if we don't pay." Min-jun's blood had frozen. "Who?" "Still tracing. But boss, if this gets out, she becomes a target. Everyone will know she matters to you." "How long until they publish?" 24 hours, maybe less. Find them, now. Already on it, but you need to tell Yasmin. She deserves to hear it from you. Min-jun had driven to her apartment, mind racing. His enemies were numerous, but most knew better than to touch what was his. This was either a new player or someone with a death wish. Either way, they'd made a fatal mistake. Yasmin had opened the door in work clothes, smiling until she saw his face. "What's wrong?" "We need to talk." She'd let him in, and Min-jun had told her everything. His enemies, the leaked photos, the danger now stalking her because of him. Yasmin had listened quietly, face draining of color. "So I'm a target now," she'd said when he finished. "Yes." "Because of you?" "Yes." "And you want me to what? Hide? Disappear?" "I want you safe." That's not an answer. Min-jun had gripped her shoulders. "I want you to let me protect you. Move into the penthouse where I can control security. Let my men guard you. Change your routine, anything that keeps you breathing." "You're asking me to give up my life." "I'm asking you to keep it." Yasmin had pulled away, pacing her small living room. "This is exactly what I was afraid of, your world consuming mine." "I know. You should have warned me. Before I—" She'd cut herself off. "Before you what?" "Before I fell for you." The words had exploded out. "Before I let myself believe we could work. Before I ignored every rational thought and let myself feel—" "Don't say fell," Min-jun had interrupted, voice rough. "Say falling, present tense, because if you're done, I need to know now." "Maybe I should be done." "But are you?" Tears had spilled over. "No, and I hate that I'm not." He'd crossed to her, wiped her tears with his thumbs. "Then let me keep you safe. Let me prove that your trust isn't misplaced. And if I can't handle this life, then I'll find a way out. Burn it all if I have to." "You can't mean that." "Try me." Yasmin had searched his face for lies and found none. "You'd really walk away from everything you've built? For you? In a heartbeat. That's not fair to everyone who depends on you. And losing you isn't fair to me." Min-jun had pulled her close, desperate to make her understand. "I've sacrificed for duty my entire life. Let me be selfish about this one thing, about you." She'd buried her face in his chest, trembling. "I'm so scared, Min-jun." "I know. Not just of your enemies, of how much I need you. It's been 3 months. 3 months shouldn't be enough time to become someone's entire world. It's been enough for me." "That's because you decide things, and they become reality. I'm not like that. I second guess. I overthink. I convince myself that happiness isn't meant for people like me." Min-jun had tilted her face up, forcing her eyes to his. "People like you. People who've lost everything. People who know how quickly good things disappear. Then we'll prove it wrong. Together, we'll build something so solid that even you can't doubt it. How? By not giving up. By fighting for this every single day. By being patient when you're scared and present when you need me and honest even when it's terrifying." Yasmin had let out a shaky breath. I need time. How much? I don't know. Hours? Days? Minjun? Because if it's forever, tell me now. I'll let you go. I'll make sure you're protected, set up, safe. But I'll step back. Could you? Really step back? No. The admission had torn out. But I'd try, if that's what you needed. I'm not asking you to step back. I'm asking for time to adjust, to figure out how to exist in your world without losing myself. Okay. Relief had flooded him. Okay, whatever you need. I want to move in with you. Minjun had frozen. What? You heard me. If I'm already a target, there's no point in pretending I'm safer alone. And honestly, I'm tired of sleeping without you. I'm tired of half measures. So yes, I'll move in. Yasmin, but I need rules. I need my own space within your space. A room that's mine. Work I can go to. Friends I can see. Some semblance of normalcy. Done. All of it. Whatever you want. Just like that? Just like that. She'd smiled through tears. You're going to spoil me. That's the plan. I'm going to be difficult sometimes. I'm counting on it. And when I get scared and try to push you away, I'll hold on tighter. Yasmin had kissed him then, desperate and deep, and Minjun had responded with everything he had. When they'd finally broken apart, both breathless, she'd whispered, "Okay, let's do this. You're sure?" Terrified, but sure. They'd moved her things that night, not because there was immediate danger. Tae Yang had already traced the blackmailer to a low-level rival who'd been swiftly and thoroughly dealt with, but because both of them were tired of pretending they could exist apart. Minjun had given her the second master suite, the one he'd secretly prepared weeks ago with her preferences in mind. Yasmin had stood in the doorway, taking in the soft colors, the comfortable furniture, the bookshelf already filled with volumes she loved. You planned this. I hoped. That's not the same thing. Close enough. She'd turned to him, eyes bright. I can't believe I'm doing this. Having regrets already? No, just overwhelmed. 3 months ago, I was cleaning your floors. Now I'm moving into your penthouse. Our penthouse. That's going to take some getting used to. You have time. We have time. That night, they'd lain in his bed. Their bed, he'd insisted, talking until dawn. Yasmin had traced patterns on his chest, and Minjun had memorized the weight of her against him. Can I ask you something? She'd murmured. Anything. Do you ever regret the life you've lived, the choices you've made? Some of them. The violence, the darkness, the people I've hurt. But they led me here. To you, and I can't regret that. Yasmin had been quiet for a moment. If you could change it, your past, I mean, would you? That's impossible. But if you could, Minjun had considered carefully, I'd want to be someone worthy of you from the beginning, someone clean and good, but I'd still want to end up exactly here. You are worthy of me. Debatable. Not to me. She'd propped herself up on one elbow, looked down at him seriously. You're a good man, Minjun. Not perfect, not sinless, but good where it counts. And I need you to believe that. Why? Because I can't love someone who hates themselves, and you're going to have to love yourself enough for both of us sometimes. The word love had hung between them. They hadn't said it yet, both dancing around it like it might break the spell. But Yasmin had just opened the door. You love me? Minjun had whispered. Terrifyingly much. Since when? Since you bought me Moroccan flowers because roses were too obvious. Since you let me make decisions even when you wanted to control everything. Since you've respected every boundary I've set while making it clear you're not going anywhere. I love you too. Completely. Impossibly. I know. She'd smiled, soft and sure. You tell me every day without saying it. How? The way you look at me, the way you listen when I talk, the way you've rearranged your entire life to make space for mine. Love isn't always loud, Min-jun. Sometimes it's just present. He'd pulled her down for a kiss, slow and deep, letting his actions speak what words couldn't fully capture. They'd made love that night, tender and reverent, taking their time to learn each other. Afterward, wrapped around each other, Yasmin had whispered, "No regrets." "None." "You?" "Just one." "What?" "That I didn't say yes sooner." The following weeks had been adjusting. Yasmin had kept her job at the hotel, insisted on maintaining some independence. Min-jun had hated every moment she was gone, but had respected her need for normalcy. They'd established routines, morning coffee together, evening meals, weekends spent exploring Seoul or staying in. Life had felt startlingly ordinary for someone who'd spent years in chaos. But ordinary didn't last. Min-jun had been in his office when Tae-yang had appeared, expression grim. "We have a problem." "What now?" "The Choi family. They're making moves, public challenges. They know about Yasmin." "How public?" "Very. They're calling you weak, saying you've gone soft." "Let them talk." "Boss, they're going to push until you push back, and when you do, Yasmin gets caught in the crossfire." Min-jun had stood, rage building. "Then we end them, now, before they become a real threat." "That's exactly what they want. They're trying to provoke you into a war. Then I'll give them one. Think about Yasmin. Think about what war means for her." That had stopped him. War meant violence, attention, danger. It meant the very thing he'd been trying to protect her from. But letting challenges stand meant appearing weak, which invited more threats. "What do you suggest?" "Let me handle it. Quietly. No blood, no headlines. Just strategic removals." "How long?" 2 weeks. Maybe 3. "You have one." Tae-yang had left and Min-jun had stood at his window, torn between instinct and love. The old him would have struck immediately, publicly, brutally. But the man Yasmin was shaping wouldn't risk her safety for pride. He'd told her that night. All of it. The threats, the challenges, his plan to let Tae-yang handle it quietly. Yasmin had listened without interrupting. "What do you want to do?" she'd asked when he finished. "Honestly, I want to destroy them. But that would mean war, and war means putting you in danger. So you're restraining yourself. For me." "Yes." Yasmin had crossed to where he stood by the window, wrapped her arms around him from behind. "Thank you." "For what?" "For choosing me over your pride. I know that's not easy for you." "It's the easiest decision I've ever made." They'd stood there watching the city, and Min-jun had felt something shift. He was changing, softening in some ways, strengthening in others. Yasmin was remaking him, and he was letting her. A week later, everything had shattered again. Min-jun had been in a meeting when his phone had exploded with notifications. Messages, calls, alerts. He'd checked the first one and felt his world end. Photos of Yasmin, leaving her job, walking in the park, entering his building. Each one captioned with threats, promises, detailed knowledge of her routine. The Choi family hadn't waited for Tae-yang's subtle approach. They'd struck directly at the only thing that mattered. Min-jun had been in his car within minutes, calling Yasmin's phone over and over. No answer. He'd contacted security. Her detail had reported she'd left work on time, followed her usual route, entered the building safely. She should have been home. But when he'd burst into the penthouse, it was empty. A note had been on the kitchen counter, Yasmin's handwriting. Min-jun had read it 3 times before the words made sense. "I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't. Every moment with you is beautiful and terrifying, and I'm not strong enough to live in fear. I'm sorry. Please don't come after me. Please let me go." The note had crumpled in his fist. No, she wouldn't just leave, not without talking to him, not without... His phone had rung. Unknown number. Is this Min-jun Kang? A male voice. Unfamiliar. Who is this? Your girlfriend asked me to call. She's at the airport. Says her phone died and she wanted you to know she's safe. Let me talk to her. She's already through security, but she wanted me to tell you. The voice had paused. She said, "Tell him I'm sorry, but this is better for both of us." The call had ended. Min-jun had stood in his empty apartment, note in one hand, phone in the other, and felt everything collapse. She'd left. Actually, left. Run away rather than face the danger together. Tae-young had found him an hour later, still standing in the same spot. "Boss, I heard. I'm sorry. Find her. She's gone. I checked the airport. She took a flight to Casablanca 2 hours ago. Then I'll go to Morocco." "And do what?" "She left, Min-jun. She made a choice." "She's running scared. That's different." "Is it? Or did she finally realize what being with you really means?" Min-jun had turned on him, fury igniting. "Don't. Someone has to say it. You knew this was possible. You knew she might not be able to handle your world." "She can handle it. She just needs time. Or she needs out, and you need to respect that." "Respect her abandoning us? Abandoning what we've built?" "Respect her putting her safety first. Respect her making the impossible choice you've been forcing her toward." The words had landed like blows. Min-jun had sunk onto the couch, head in his hands. "I can't lose her." "Then let her go. If she comes back, it'll be because she chose to, not because you pressured her." But letting her go had felt like dying. 3 days passed in agony. Min-jun had handled the Choi situation personally, swift, brutal, final. He dismantled their organization in 72 hours, left no threat standing. But victory tasted like ash when Yasmin wasn't there to celebrate. He'd stared at her note obsessively. "Please don't come after me." She'd asked for one thing, the only thing, and he was tearing himself apart trying to honor it. On the 4th day, Tae-yang had appeared with news. The situation in Morocco. What situation? Yasmin. She's in danger. The world had stopped. Explain. The Choi remnants. They found out where she went. They're making moves. How close? Too close. Min-jun had been packed. Within the hour. Tae-young had tried to stop him. "Boss, she asked you not to come. She asked me not to follow her. She didn't ask me to let her die. She's going to be furious. I don't care. She can hate me from a distance as long as she's breathing." The flight to Casablanca had been the longest of his life. Min-jun had coordinated with his contacts in Morocco, arranged transportation, gathered his best men. By the time they'd landed, he'd had a location. Yasmin was staying with her aunt in a residential neighborhood. Min-jun had approached the modest house at dawn, alone despite his team's protests. He'd knocked on the door. Yasmin had opened it. Her eyes had gone wide, cycling through shock, anger, and something that might have been relief. "What are you doing here?" "You're in danger." "What?" "My enemies found you. They're coming. I'm taking you somewhere safe." "I don't—" "Now, Yasmin." His voice had been steel. "We don't have time to argue." She'd seen something in his face that convinced her. Within 10 minutes, she'd grabbed essentials, kissed her tearful aunt goodbye, and followed him to the waiting car. His team had moved them to a secure apartment in Marrakesh. High-rise building, multiple exits, armed guards. Once inside, Yasmin had rounded on him. "You can't just show up and uproot my life." "I can when that life is in danger. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid. Your world following me everywhere. Better alive in my world than dead in yours." They'd stared at each other, fury and fear crackling between them. Finally, Yasmin had collapsed onto the unfamiliar couch. "Why did you come?" "I asked you not to." "You think I could stay away knowing you were in danger?" "I left, Min-jun. I ran away. I'm a coward." "You're scared. There's a difference." Is there? She looked up at him, eyes red. Because I feel like a coward. I feel like I abandoned everything we built because I couldn't handle the pressure. Min-jun had knelt before her, taken her hands. You're not a coward. You're surviving, like you've always done. But I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to live. With you, and I thought running would make that possible. But all I've done is think about you every second. Then come home. What if it's not safe? I've eliminated the threats, completely. The Choi family is gone. Anyone who knew about you is gone. I've burned bridges, called in every favor, and spent the last 4 days making sure you could come home without fear. Yasmin had stared at him. You destroyed them. Yes, because of me. Yes, Min-jun. I told you I'd burn my empire down for you. Did you think I was exaggerating? I thought you were being dramatic. I was being literal. She'd started crying then, and Min-jun had pulled her close, let her sob into his chest. When she'd finally quieted, she'd pulled back to look at him. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I gave you reason to. It wasn't your fault. It was. I knew the dangers, and I selfishly kept you anyway. I wanted to be kept. She'd cupped his face. I love you. I should have said it more. I should have trusted that we could face anything together. I love you too, more than anything, more than everything. Take me home. You're sure? Completely sure. They'd stayed in Marrakesh for another week, not out of necessity, but because Yasmin had wanted to show him her homeland. Min-jun had met her extended family, learned about her childhood, walked streets that had shaped her. She'd taken him to markets bursting with color and spices, shown him the ocean where she'd played as a child, shared pieces of herself he'd treasure forever. On their last night, they'd stood on the rooftop of their temporary apartment, watching the sunset over Marrakesh. Yasmin had leaned into him, content. I'm ready, she'd said softly. For what? Everything. Marriage, life, whatever comes next. Min-jun had turned her to face him. Are you proposing? Maybe. Are you accepting? Absolutely. He'd pulled a ring from his pocket, a simple band with a Moroccan design he'd commissioned during their week there. But I'd rather ask properly. Yasmin's eyes had filled with tears as he'd knelt. When did you... The day after we arrived, I knew then I wasn't leaving Morocco without a promise. You're impossible. Is that a yes? Yes, yes, you impossible man, yes. He'd slipped the ring on her finger, kissed her, until the world disappeared. When they'd finally broken apart, Yasmin had laughed through tears. We're really doing this. We really are. Your family will be furious. Your organization... My organization works for me, not the other way around, and I don't have family beyond Taeyang. You're it now. You're everything. They'd married in Seoul 3 weeks later. Small ceremony, just close friends, and Taeyang as witness. Yasmin had worn traditional Moroccan clothing for part of the day, Korean hanbok for the rest, honoring both their cultures. Min-jun had barely heard the vows, too focused on the woman in front of him, promising forever. The months that followed had been adjustment. Min-jun had transitioned more of his business legitimate, stepping back from the darkness that had defined him. It would take years to fully extract himself, but he'd started the process. For Yasmin, for their future. They'd settled into marriage with surprising ease. Yasmin had kept working, found purpose in hotel management, was considering opening her own boutique hotel someday. Min-jun had supported every dream, provided capital and connections without controlling outcomes. They'd learned to balance independence and partnership. 6 months into marriage, Yasmin had woken up sick, 3 mornings in a row. She'd taken a test almost casually, then stared at the positive result for 10 minutes. Min-jun had found her sitting on the bathroom floor, test in hand. What's wrong? She'd looked up at him, eyes wide. I'm pregnant. The world had stopped, then restarted in Technicolor. You're sure? Very sure. How long? About 2 months, I think. Minjun had sunk to the floor beside her, pulled her into his arms. How do you feel? Terrified, excited, overwhelmed. All reasonable responses. You're not upset. Why would I be upset? We didn't plan this. We've only been married 6 months. Yasmin. He tilted her face up. I've wanted everything with you since the moment you smiled at me in my study. A baby is just the next part of forever. She'd cried then, hormones and relief and joy all mixed together. I love you. I love you too. Both of you. Minjun had pressed his hand to her still flat stomach, feeling wonder and terror in equal measure. A child, his child, their child. The responsibility was staggering, but looking at Yasmin, his wife, his partner, his entire world, he knew they'd figure it out together. The pregnancy had been relatively easy. Yasmin had glowed, belly growing steadily. Minjun had been insufferably protective, driving her crazy with worry. She'd threatened to ban him from doctor's appointments if he didn't stop interrogating every medical professional they encountered. I'm pregnant, not fragile, she'd said after he'd tried to carry her up a single flight of stairs. You're carrying my child. That makes you precious. I was precious before. Even more so now. She'd rolled her eyes but kissed him anyway. Their daughter had been born on a Tuesday morning, 7 pounds and furious at the world. Minjun had held her for the first time and felt everything shift. This tiny person was half him, half Yasmin, and completely perfect. She has your eyes, Yasmin had murmured from the hospital bed, and your mouth. She's going to be trouble. Good. The world needs more strong women. They'd named her Layla, Arabic for night, beautiful and mysterious. She'd filled their home with chaos and joy. Minjun had reduced his work, hours even further, unable to miss a single moment of her development. Yasmin had watched him with their daughter one evening, Minjun reading stories in terrible voices, Layla giggling, and felt complete. This man who'd terrified her with his intensity now used that same intensity to love their family. He transformed himself, not because she'd demanded it, but because he'd wanted to become someone worthy of what they were building. What are you thinking? Minjun had asked, noticing her staring. That I'm glad I didn't stay away. Me too. And that you were right. About? Love conquering everything. Fear, danger, all of it. Minjun had settled Layla in her crib, then crossed to Yasmin, pulled her close. We conquered it together. Together, she'd agreed. They'd stood in their daughter's nursery, wrapped around each other, and both understood the same truth. The journey had been messy, terrifying, and worth every moment. They'd chosen each other repeatedly through danger and doubt, and built something neither had thought possible. Some loves burn fast and fade, others simmer slow and last forever. Minjun and Yasmin's had done both, ignited instantly, then matured into something deep and unshakable. And as they watched their daughter sleep, they knew one certainty. This was home. This was always home. And they'd never let it go. So yeah, sometimes the person who changes everything walks in when you least expect it. If their story resonated with you, drop a like and share this with your crew. Spread the love. Literally. And don't forget to subscribe so you're here for every story we drop, because there's so much more coming.